Our next slum example comes to us from Cairo, Egypt. The slum is called Al Kharafa, which means necropolis. Necropolis literally translates to city of the dead. And as you can see in these images, particularly the one on the right, you see a scooter lined up outside of a building. That building is actually a mausoleum. To the left of the mausoleum, you can see different headstones. Now, Al Kharafa originated in the mid 1900s as Cairo went into its post colonial urbanization boom. And so many people descended upon the city that idea, that concept of over urbanization took hold. And today, Al Kharafa has about 500,000 people. Within the cemetery, there's a post office, there is a school, it is a functioning neighborhood within a city. So again, as the migrants made their way into the city looking for work, as the city urbanized and industrialized, we see that the city wasn't able to accommodate that growth. And through over-urbanization, we had a surplus population that settled in this cemetery and created their own city. They created their own informal economy. They make ends meet. They pursue hope within this slum. And our final example is Paraisópolis in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Paraisópolis literally translates to Paradise City. And you can see in this image the stark contrast of affluence and poverty that exists in Brazil. And it's not only Brazil, it's here in the United States in some instances. But when we look at our slums, we often see that they abet, they merge, they connect, they're just next door to some of our most affluent areas. The high-rise building on the right, you can see each of those units has a pool or a jacuzzi on their deck. You can see the tennis courts, you can see the community pool, you can see the lush greenery. On the left side of the wall, you see informal housing, you see a slum, you see informal economic activities taking place. Now, one of the things Brazil has done that has helped them manage their slums is that they're actually giving property rights to many residents in their slums. So property rights, the lack of title, one of the major concerns with slums is a lesser concern in Brazil. It still remains a concern for tens of thousands of people in the slums, but Brazil has found that providing title to many of the slum residents has helped the overall conditions in these areas. So as we move through the 21st century, we need to ask ourselves, are we becoming a planet of slums? By 2030, it's estimated that about a third of the world's population is going to be living in these places. And recall, what is a slum? A slum is a place of informal housing. People lack title, poor sanitation, informal economy, not well connected with the city in many cases. So as our urban population around the world grows, as the percentage of people living in cities pushes towards 70% of an estimated 10 billion by mid-century, we're seeing that about a third of the world's population is expected to be living in slums within the next decade. So these areas that provide hope but are many times places of despair are growing rapidly. The negatives, obviously, untaxed and unregulated. People aren't accounted for. Economic activity isn't accounted for in many of our emerging markets, where that economic activity could help boost not only the city, but the entire country. Unregulated moves well beyond economics and looks at the safety, the livelihoods of the people living there. The population is high risk. There is no social safety net. So while the informal economy is able to pick up millions of people, we see that individuals often can't find work, or individuals could be hurt at work or sick and lose their job. School, medicine, health, all of that is lacking in these slums. So while it is a place of hope and opportunity, it is a very high-risk place of hope and opportunity. Positives: slums are providing a means to reduce poverty. Slums provide economic opportunity, they provide housing, they provide community for millions of people around the world. We actually see an increased gender equality as the need for work and the supply of labor doesn't carry with it as many stigmas as you find in some of these countries' formal markets. Many times, these informal activities in our slums support the formal economy, like we saw in Dharavi, where we have tanners and leather workers supporting multinational corporations and retailers in some of our most affluent markets. And we have this concept called churning. Churning is the movement of individuals from the informal economy to the formal economy. And slums in System D could be very effective when churning is occurring. When we're actually using our slums, we're using our informal workplace and informal housing to step into the formal sectors, into formal housing, into the formal workplace. So if churning is occurring, we're seeing that slums are doing a number of things, both socially with gender equality and economically with reducing poverty and pushing people into the formal sector. So as we move through the 21st century, again, we're anticipating the growth of slums is going to be significant. We're anticipating within the next decade or so that 1/3 of the world's population is anticipated to be slum residents. This setup, this scenario, these places carry with them a lot of risk, but again, they carry with them a level of opportunity that would not be found without the informal housing and informal economic opportunities.